Welcome to the EUTalk podcast, a discipleship resource produced and edited by Utah Baptist Church. We pray our content encourages and equips you to grow deeper in the faith, closer to the family, and live a life of gospel focus. Thank you for tuning in.
Well, welcome to EUTalk episode 6. This one is titled The Local Church and Evangelism with, yes, it's in the title, my brother Casey Norkett. Who do we have with us all today, though? I'm Matt Johnson.
I'm Josh Fraley.
And
I'm Casey Norkett.
Casey Norkett. So, Casey, you're here to help us talk through the local church and evangelism, the ins and outs of it, encouragements regarding it, but also just tell us a little bit about yourself as we start this conversation.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Charlotte. It's my hometown. I'm a member of the same church my family's been a member of since I was 3 years old. Hickory Grove Baptist Church is the only church I've really ever known. Church that I came to faith in, was baptized in, discipled in, came to maturity, met my wife there, and the church ultimately that sent me and my wife overseas with the IMB. And so
yeah, and that is one church, two locations.
One church, two locations, as well as the church that my wife and I came back from serving with the IMB, came on as a missions pastor there for 8 years. And so all I know comes out of being a part of a local church.
Right. And so in being a part of a local church, specifically Hickory Grove, when did you feel that call? I know you gave us some years, but when did you feel that call to the field? Because was that the first call rather than just local church ministry? So
I remember distinctly being in elementary school, and it being around Christmas time, and there being the Lottie Moon Christmas offering, there being a banner over the baptistry that had our target number for what we were going to raise for Lottie Moon Christmas offering, and just innocently thinking, well, who is Lottie Moon and why is she so special?
Right.
Shouldn't all believers tell other people about Jesus? Why is she so different?
Right.
And so just began to, as a late elementary school student, thinking, well, what are believers supposed to do? Is the Great Commission for certain people, or is it for all believers to do? And then kind of as I grew in maturity, in middle school and into high school, thinking, okay, we're all gifted, we're all called to be disciple makers. How do I use the giftings that God has given me specifically? How has He wired me, created me, gifted me in a way that I am to use these gifts for His glory? And then kind of looking at what would keep me from serving Him with all that I have, with all that I am.
Right.
And so those same sorts of things, a similar call to ministry like that happened with my wife, of just a desire to serve others, internationally, and just began to cultivate that.
And to hang out with you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because y'all were going to do that together.
Right. But it's like, but all along having especially godly men, leaders, pastors, Sunday school teachers, all those along the way that were cultivating that in me, and also saying, yeah, if I say, hey, I'm thinking about serving overseas, and they go, I see that in you. I see a gifting for language, or a gifting for other people, a gifting for all these different things. We see that in you, and helping cultivate that instead of pushing that to the side. Wait till you're older. Wait till you've got enough time to grow, and then you can be. None of that. How can we facilitate and cultivate those things in you at a young age?
Right.
Was really helpful.
And then you went and you served with the IMB, the International Mission Board. I don't know in this setting if you can say where you guys served.
So we served in North Africa and the Middle East. So the IMB is SBC's sending arm for missions. When your church, when EUTalk gives to the cooperative program, what it means to be Southern Baptist is it means to cooperate for mission. And so every dollar that this church gives, and all Southern Baptist churches give, a portion of that goes to the IMB, and we've got an army of missionaries, thousands, all over the world. And so we went the route through the IMB. They've broken the world up into regions or affinities. Most of those are kind of roughly geographical.
Right.
And so we were in North Africa and the Middle East, primarily in North Africa.
1040 window.
1040 window, yep.
Which is one of the least reached places, the least reached places in the world.
Yep.
You started a family. You started a family over there, or did you have Layla before you went?
Nope. Got married. Were married for 2 years. Went to Southeastern. Did their 2+2 program, which is their kind of missionary training at Southeastern. Then went overseas. Had our first child overseas, second child when we were back in the U.S. on the stateside or furlough, and then our third child back overseas. Then when we came back and began doing pastoral ministry here, had our fourth child.
Well, that's cool. So you've not only been a part of the going, you've been a part of the sending side of it, because that's where I met you. I got to serve at Hickory Grove with you as well, which was awesome. But can you talk about just your current role with what you're not doing that now, but you're still serving local churches? What do you do?
Right. So now I work for NC Baptist, our state convention, and we have, for all intents and purposes, local representatives of our state convention in every region or every geographical part of the state for the primary purpose of mobilizing churches, equipping churches, resourcing churches, for sending, for church planting, for revitalization, for whatever may be, pastoral equipping. We are here to support and come alongside those churches. So I live in the Charlotte area, and I serve churches in, if you're a really good NC Baptist, you'll know this, I'm in Region 6 and an 8, which basically goes Laurinburg in the east to almost Hendersonville, like Polk County in the west. There's about 1,200 churches,
right?
SBC, Southern Baptist churches in that area, but meant to serve churches in whatever way possible. We are here to serve. I'm here to serve. I want to say yes to whatever a church needs for the hopes of being all of us on mission together. So.
Right, breathing life into associations. How many churches do we have, Baptist churches do we have in North Carolina? Do y'all know the 40
Southern
something?
Baptist, 4,300-ish.
Yep. Wow. So just the fact that what we give dollars to in CP, what we're engaged in as Baptists, like it stretches more than just Utah Baptist. It like you're going to serve us, but you're also going to serve so many other places.
That's right.
And connect us with those people.
That's right. As
well. So we're not in it alone. Well, thank you, Josh. Can you talk through where we're going as a church and why this is just a really good setup for just today's conversation?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And Casey, man, great to have you with us today. So we're where we are here at EUTalk in the life of the church is we just came out of one of those kind of long 8-month seasons of looking at one particular book of the Bible. Ephesians, just finished that up, and had the privilege to go away and pray a couple weeks ago about direction for Utah for the next year. And one of the things I really sensed the Lord saying when I was away was, before you get back in another intensive study of a book, why don't we hit kind of a gospel reset button for the church? And so what he led me to do is just simply go back to the Great Commission, Matthew 28, 18 through 20, and revisit this commission to go and this commission to make disciples. And I think, we would say this about many topics in the church. We need to remind ourselves to, maintain our relationship with Christ. We need to remind ourselves to be tithers. We need to remind ourselves to be on mission, to make disciples. But just this simple biblical commission to go. That the church exists for no other reason to win people to the Lord Jesus and to teach them to follow Him with their lives. And so I think sometimes just in the routine of busyness and ministry and week after week of church and church life and events and everything that we do, we probably just need to be reminded of the basic commission and why we are here. Otherwise, we'll turn to look inward in the church, and we'll forget to look outward. And so the whole, why would we want to make disciples? Because we want disciples to be those who, like Casey, answered the call one day to be a Lottie Moon, if you will, and go. And so you don't look like her.
Thanks.
Yeah.
3 times or so.
But no, I'm excited about it. So we're going to spend this coming Sunday just looking at go evangelize. The following Sunday, we'll come back, hit the reset button on what it means to make disciples as a church, and really just challenge our church to remember what our purpose is. Here at EUTalk, man, we want to teach people to love Christ, grow in that relationship, transform the world by the power of Christ. And so, yeah.
So you said you grew up in Charlotte, and you grew up at a great church, and you've been in a part of and had the front seat for many emphases. I don't know if that's a word or not, but just for maybe evangelism pushes. We see this type of language all the time, and a lot of times it comes on the heels of something great.
Sure.
It's saying, man, we're looking around. We've done a lot of ministry. We've started to kind of grow as a family of believers at a church, but man, we need to now get outside of these walls. But there's some struggles there. So what are some primary reasons a lot of times that these pushes kind of stall out?
can I take your question and not answer it and answer it the way I
Listen,
want to?
you're on a podcast.
Okay, good.
That's exactly what this entire event is.
Yes.
I don't know. There's certainly holes to poke and to do all that. I think there are great things to do with emphases and pushes and, something you do in the life of the church. You're encouraging your members to share the gospel, to serve, and then you have certain pushes throughout the year to really highlight that and just give kind of a shot in the arm. And this is what we're going to do. Those are all great.
Right.
Relying only on that, you do nothing else the rest of the year. You have one event or something you do. There's not going to be sustainability.
Right.
But I think really the way I'd like to answer it is day in and day out, are we being faithful stewards of the gospel? Are we telling people about, it is as simple as, are you communicating in words, speaking to people about who Jesus is? It's really what, are we faithful to share the good news with people? And just a little example, we had a parent-teacher conference yesterday. Our foster son went to his school and met with his teacher, and she's telling us, we're just talking about all kinds of things. And she says, well, one thing I wanted to tell you is yesterday he told his classmate she didn't know Jesus, and if she didn't know Jesus, she was going to hell. And he proceeded. So I came home. I was like, I don't want to stifle this at all. I want to hear what happened. He goes, yeah, I asked my desk mate, do you believe in Jesus? And she said, I don't believe in that Jesus. He goes, well, you should, because if you don't, you're going to hell. And so he had the crux of the gospel right. But I didn't want to stifle that. But this passion that he had of
sharing truth.
My classmate does not know Jesus. The most important thing to me is to tell her about Jesus, regardless of what he's going to get in trouble in class or she's he didn't. Those were not consequences he was worried about. He was worried about her eternal state.
Right.
And I think that childlike faith is lost on us very, very easily, of not realizing my neighbor, my coworker, my family member, whoever it is, there is an eternal state at stake.
Right.
And so what am I going to do? And so I think this may go to one of your other questions, as a leader, as the pastors of the church, am I not only putting that before the congregation, I think the key is, am I leading in that?
Yeah, I want to say something on that, because that struck a nerve with me. We've got this, Utah is listening. We got Grind Week happening this week. Matt preached an awesome message last night. A couple individuals responded and received Christ. So my wife and I are in the bed last night. We've got a 14-year-old daughter, and we hear her coming down the stairs, and we're like, why is she up? she drank too much coffee. But no, she comes to the doorway, and she says, Mom, can I ask you a question? And we're like, come on, sit in the bed with us and let's talk. And she witnessed somebody give their life to Christ last night, but it kind of stirred this question in her: am I really saved? And that led us to talk about, what is your real, Hayden, what is the real burden you have on your heart? And she said, well, if hell is real, and if people are really going to go there if they don't believe, number one, I want to know I really believe. And she said the exact words. She said, I'm burdened for those who don't.
How about that? That's awesome.
But you know what happened when she said that? This pastor right here was convicted. Because I was like, why don't I have that innocent passion and burden for the lost right now?
Right.
And what happens is we're busy. We know life in a way children don't know life, and we have missed out on the simplicity of what it means to tell people about Jesus. And that's what we're supposed to be doing.
And I think too, when we have more busy lives or more complicated infrastructure of, we're funneling the gospel into cultures that we are comfortable with, rather than letting the gospel be the culture that we're trying to see created. And I agree. There's conviction there for us to say, at some point, it's going to have to not matter if these things happen. It's going to have to only matter whether we share true childlike belief in Jesus with somebody else. And that's not an emphasis that we should ever necessarily move on from.
Absolutely. I mean, going back to my role as a missions pastor, I would have church members or other folks from other churches that would be sensing a call to ministry. And one of my first conversations with them is, well, tell me about your kind of evangelism practices you have now. And almost all of them, I really don't share the gospel. But when I go overseas, I'm going to do it then. Well, if you're not doing it, in your hometown,
right,
where everything's comfortable, where everything is, you're familiar with it, you're certainly not going to do it there. The point is, it should be this daily discipline, really is a spiritual discipline for us
Right.
to be able to share and to make a priority to share the gospel
Yeah.
with others. I mean,
And
yeah,
like burden leading to practice.
absolutely.
And I think it's cool because you served at a place and I served at a place, and many people get to be introduced to that burden week in and week out. And that's why the ministering of the word that we just talked about in the pastor's thing we just sat through a few minutes ago, the ministering of the word does that work in the heart, but then it's up to the people who listen to it for it to go get to their feet and get to their mouths and get to their words.
And it's the burden your daughter talked to you about. I mean, I think about Matthew 9, Jesus sees the crowd, and he's moved. There's this compassion, this pity, this they are sheep without a shepherd. So then what are we going to do? What are we going to do about it? Is what he said. I mean, basically that's why I have you disciples. You're the ones that are going to be the hands and feet of Jesus and go and minister to them. I think it's really powerful. That compassion, it moves us. It shouldn't make us. If we're not doing it, then it shows we're not moved with compassion for them.
Well, and consider all the other things that we're so anxious to tell our friends about.
Right.
All the good things, man.
Yep.
Look at my truck. Look at my house. Look what I did. Look where I was. Look at this opportunity I had. But are we anxious to tell people about Jesus?
Absolutely.
It was really cool. One of the girls that gave their lives to Christ last night, I saw it on Facebook just a little bit ago, went home, told her dad, and her dad was convicted.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Praise
Dad was
God.
convicted and
Man.
wanted to profess faith and be baptized on Sunday. So
Seriously.
So like the just the fact that the word will do the work, not in necessarily eloquence, not in but when it is the word itself and the truth itself, it does it does what we wish that we could do, but it does it on its own. And so we kind of answered a little bit of this, but where do you recommend churches start if they want to grow just simply as evangelists? Is it training? Is it practice? Is it both? Just take it from there.
I think it's a both and. I don't think you wait till you're equipped to be then ready to go out.
I was fishing for that answer, let's be honest.
Honestly, it's taking those in your church that you know are gifted in evangelism, gifted in sharing the gospel, and putting either younger believers in their Christian walk, or just younger people in general, putting those and walking hand in hand, bringing them together. I remember sitting at an evangelism training in my church, and one guy stood up and he said, "I learned how to share the gospel," and he pointed. He goes, "Because, use for example, Josh shared the gospel with me, and then he took me along with him."
Right.
And we shared the gospel with Matt, and Matt became a believer, and then Josh and Matt started going out. And it was literally this you saw discipleship happening, and he's naming the men in the room that walked hand in hand through that discipleship. It's learning along the way. Okay, hey guys, you shared the gospel with your friend at school today. How did that go? And kind of parsing it out and figuring out what they did well. Maybe they didn't communicate it clearly. Thinking through ways of who and how they're sharing the gospel with,
Right.
Those sorts of things. I think we can't wait till we have all the knowledge. We will never have all the knowledge. We'll never have all the boldness on our own. There's definitely a spirit element to this. I can't
Right.
do this on my own.
Right.
I do it in unison with other believers, and I also knowingly do it, knowing that the Spirit is with me. I mean, that is the Great Commission. You're to go and make disciples. Lo, I am with you always. I mean, He is with us
Right.
as we go, and so I think those are my takeaways.
I'm the quintessential youth kid that went on all the trips, but like if we were doing door to door,
You're busy.
I was at the street.
Yeah.
I was the third kid behind the two
I'll pray
kids
for
that were
you.
brave enough
You're
to knock
praying-
on the
you're
door
praying
and
for
invite
them?
somebody
Yeah.
to something. I'll pray for you guys.
Yeah.
Can we pray for you? Yeah, 100%. But I'll attest to, like, as the Lord gripped my heart and then put me in a position where I couldn't really say no, and start having a conversation about something that wasn't just rote memorized. God, man, Christ response, but then was true because my life had experienced it. Yeah. It then became as simple as sharing a simple truth. It became as simple as sharing. And then I was on a trip to New York a couple of years ago with a group of students, and we've been trained by, I think you know Scott Hand. Who'd been overseas as well for a long time, and just training through these concentric circles of common interest, fears and values, getting to worldview and a conversation, just learning how to have conversations and ask sometimes only 2 questions to get to how somebody's heart is, and then learning that you can get to the gospel that fast with anybody, no matter their threshold of getting into a conversation. Just seeing those things work
it's
was
so
encouraging.
easy. I mean, I was trained up on the old way, like evangelism, explosion, faith, and you can ask a simple question about family or hobbies and interest, and within 10 minutes you'll be making a beeline for the gospel.
Right.
That's right.
Yep.
No, I think there's a gospel fluency as well. Like when I'm talking with people, I'm talking to my neighbor, talking with, someone I'm just meeting, just a friend or whatever it may be. I know just as talking believer to believer. I mean, if there's something in your life that's difficult or you're going through, I'm going to quickly go to what the Word has to say, because I know it. I'm daily saturating myself in the truth of the gospel in His Word, and so having that gospel fluency, knowing the world, people are going through some stuff, right?
Right.
And so there are needs and there are areas to minister to folks, and just having a high EQ of just people. What do people like to talk about? People like to talk about themselves. They're talking about themselves. And the more they talk about themselves,
Tell me about yourself.
Right. I mean, and they'll go. And so then you have, okay, man, there's a gospel connection there. There's a gospel connection there. And not that you're not hearing me say, please don't hear me say, you're not just talking to them to get to those things. You're genuinely caring. I genuinely care about people. But you're seeing those connections to be able to share truth of the gospel with them.
I think you don't get to genuinely caring about someone unless you're not going to share the gospel with conviction, and you're not going to truly care about somebody if you're not reading what the Word says about you. What the gospel has accomplished. I mean, that's Ephesians. It's gospel truths for gospel lives. Well, that truth was for your life, that you would walk worthy. Your want is only going to come from understanding that and knowing that and seeing that.
Was that his message title? Did you just?
Well, that was the series title. Yeah.
I see what you did there. I wasn't even here. I picked it up.
It was good. And so,
and it's so easy. I mean, to share the gospel, even if you can't, eloquently share the gospel A to Z. Maybe you're not confident in that. We're gonna do a training at EUTalk starting the last Wednesday of August. To North American Mission Board's got an amazing evangelism training kit that Matt introduced me to, and we're going to teach that on Wednesday night. So if you're listening, be here on Wednesday night starting end of August. But even the opportunity to pray with somebody is an opportunity to share the gospel. Unless you're like at a pride march and you're trying to ask a transgender person to pray, 99% of the people are going to let you pray with them.
right.
And in praying with somebody, you can share the gospel. You never know what God will do with that. I've seen Him work through just praying over someone at a gas pump. Man, can I pray for you?
Yep. And just thinking through your own testimony. I mean, some people were saved at some sort of a crusade or something like that, some event. But most people were saved from someone sharing the gospel with them. I can't remember the words that were said, the eloquence of who said. I don't remember that.
Right.
But I do know who shared the gospel with me. I know how much they cared for me enough to share the gospel with me.
Right.
And so I think that relationship is important. What we say is obviously important. We're communicating the truth of the gospel to someone, but it is not our primary responsibility as believers. It's the Spirit using us as His tool.
Right. I want to move down one more or down 2 questions, and just we'll kind of start closing this up here. But we are gonna. Churches should be making a push to train. Churches should be making a push to just put people in positions where they have to do this. To where if they don't, I've been in so many places where people were upset that they had an opportunity and then they got back on the bus and they were just like, my burden didn't reach my mouth. So that we've got to be able to put people in positions to do something uncomfortable. But then why is it so important to partner with specific missionaries, partner with other churches, partner with the convention? Why is it good to tap into those things?
Well, I think we're better together. There's more. There is a gospel task to accomplish that EUTalk can't accomplish.
Right.
The churches in Union County can't accomplish.
Right.
There's more lost people in Union County than there are churches that could hold them off. The whole county came to faith today. They can't fit in the churches that we have in this county.
Wow.
The same with our state. You go there is work to be done, gospel work to be done, and we can't do it alone. We're not called as believers to be individualist islands of our own. We're called to be brothers and sisters in Christ together. I think that same thought goes to other churches in our area, our denomination. We are better together, and so I think that works for us to go. And there's for us to partner that we can't. EUTalk can't go to the ends of the earth, all of the ends of the earth, and we partner with missionaries that are there. We partner with church planters. Either they're sent out from here, or we connect with them here because of the shared affinity, or whatever the reason may be. That you partner with a missionary or a church planter, because we know that all of that is gospel ministry. We want to be a part of it.
Sweet.
And we see it modeled in the New Testament that churches did not do it alone. Pastors didn't do it alone. And, Paul's often writing to another region or another church to say, let's do this together.
Yep.
Yeah. And many times the words that are not elegant, still empowered by the Holy Spirit, did something. 40 days and Nineveh will be overturned, and I think that's kind of how I want to end it. From both of you, what are your encouragements, not just to the local church, what are your encouragements to the member who listens to this and says, yeah, that's just not me. That's not where I'm at. What's the encouragement that you can give them approaching the task of being a goer or a sender and evangelizing?
I think the statement, it's not me, is a cop-out. But if you're a Christian, it is you. And it's not just pastors and churches. The Great Commission is not to any one missionary or pastor. It's a Great Commission to Christians. It was followers of Jesus. You're a Christian, you're a follower of Jesus, meaning that you're supposed to point people to the one you follow. And so it's cop-out. But I would say to be encouraged, because it may be that you just do feel inadequate, that you have never been trained. Not everyone will attend evangelism training. It's not the most popular thing you could do, but everyone will come to Harvest Fest, right? Or whatever. So I would just say be encouraged, because you may not think it's for you, but it may just be because you've not formally been trained. You can be trained, or it may be also that you're a introvert, and that's okay, because God made you that way.
Right.
Not everybody's extroverted, but introverts can share the gospel as well.
That's
We've got foreign, I say foreign missionaries. We have missionaries being sent out who are, going into virtual chat rooms to be characters in a chat room to share the gospel, because that's where a lot of people are.
Right.
They're in this fake world. Well, the gospel needs to go there too, right?
Yeah.
So it's just be encouraged. You are who you are, but don't say that it's not for you. I have a hard time accepting that when people say it's not for me. It may not be for you to go to China,
Sure,
but it is for you to share the gospel.
Right.
and I think if you feel inadequate, if you feel like you're not up to the task, join the club. I think that's the model we see in Scripture. We see men and women who are inadequate. I mean, you look at the prophets of old; they're all inadequate to accomplish the task on their own. When they attempt to accomplish a task on their own, they fail.
Right.
Their strength, their boldness, it comes from their reliance on God.
For Paul, it was his resume, wasn't it? He's like, I'm the worst.
Right. So so you're not alone, and that should be we should be encouraged by that. Say we do this with other believers, and ultimately do this by the power of the Spirit. That you're right. I'm not equipped to share the gospel, but only by the power of the Spirit through me do I.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm so thankful that you took the time to do this with us today, to talk through it. I think that it is life-giving, and where there's burden, there should be a light, a fire that's lit under us to move. And so when it feels like it's going dim, let's light it again. Amen. And so I'm excited to see where we go in our messages in the next few weeks. And we're excited to see you guys on Sunday. So tune in, catch us on Spotify.
Apple Podcasts,
Spotify, YouTube, all the above.
Facebook.
Yes, sir. Take it easy.
See ya.
They always say, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, that's right.
Or wherever you listen.
And the Google Play Store.